Commander Lisa Kane stood at the large window of her ship's bridge, watching the stars. The used Defiance was a small exploration vessel, built for discovery rather than war. It had been 3 weeks since they left Earth's outer colonies, and the mission was going well. They were mapping new star systems and looking for planets that humans might call home. Someday. Lisa was 32 years old and had been commanding ships for 8 years. She was tall with short brown hair and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. Her crew respected her because she was fair but tough. She had grown up on a frontier world where life was hard and people learned to fight for what they needed. Bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Lieutenant Jake Morrison sat at the weapons station, though they rarely needed weapons on exploration missions. He was young, maybe 25, with blonde hair and nervous energy. Engineer Amy Fletcher worked at her station, keeping the ship running smoothly. She was older than Jake, around 30, with red hair and steady hands. Dr. Ben Crawford was in the medical bay, ready to help if anyone got hurt. "Commander," Jake called out, his voice tight with worry. "I'm picking up something on the sensors. Multiple contacts coming in fast." Lisa turned from the window and walked to the center of the bridge. "How many contacts, Jake?" 12 ships. "Ma'am, they're big. Much bigger than us." Jake's fingers moved quickly over his controls. "They're not human ships. The design is completely different." Amy looked up from her station. "Commander, they're surrounding us, moving into attack formation." Lisa felt her stomach drop. The Defiance was alone out here, weeks away from the nearest human settlement. If these aliens were hostile, her crew was in serious trouble. "Put them on screen," Lisa ordered. The main display showed 12 massive ships arranged in a circle around the Defiance. Each alien vessel was dark gray and covered in sharp edges. They looked like weapons themselves, built for one purpose: war. The smallest of them was 10 times larger than Lisa's ship. "They're hailing us," Jake reported. "Put them through." The screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. It was reptilian, with scales instead of skin and yellow eyes that seemed to glow. When it spoke, its voice was deep and harsh. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. I am Commander Vex of the Zephyrian Empire. Your ship is surrounded. You cannot escape." Lisa stepped forward so the alien could see her clearly. "This is Commander Lisa Kane of the United Earth ship Defiance. We are explorers, not soldiers." "We mean no harm to your people." The alien's mouth opened, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Harm? You think we care about your intentions? Humans are weak. Your species will serve the Zephyrian Empire or die. There is no third choice." "We're not looking for a fight," Lisa said, keeping her voice calm. "We were just mapping this system. We can leave if you want us to." Commander Vex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Leave? No, human. You will surrender your ship and your crew. You will become slaves of the Empire. This is not a request." Lisa felt anger rising in her chest. She had heard stories about the Zephyrians from other captains. They were conquerors who traveled the galaxy taking whatever they wanted. They enslaved entire species and destroyed anyone who resisted them. "And if we refuse?" Lisa asked. "Then you die, but death will be slow and painful. We will make examples of you so other humans know what happens when they defy the Empire." Lisa looked around her bridge. Jake was pale but determined. Amy had stopped working and was watching the screen, with fear in her eyes. Through the comm system, she could hear Dr. Crawford moving around the medical bay, getting ready for the worst. These were good people. Her people. They had signed up to explore the galaxy and help humanity grow among the stars. They didn't deserve to die as slaves to alien conquerors. "Commander Vex," Lisa said, her voice growing stronger. I've heard about your empire. You take what you want and destroy what you can't use. You think might makes right. It does, Vex replied. The strong rule the weak. This is the way of the universe. Lisa smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Maybe that's how things work in your part of the galaxy. But you're about to learn something about humans that your intelligence reports probably missed. She turned to her crew. Jake, bring weapons online. Amy, prepare for evasive maneuvers. Ben, secure the medical bay and prepare for battle. Commander, Jake said quietly, we can't fight 12 ships. Our weapons are designed for defense, not war. I know, Lisa replied. But sometimes you don't get to choose your battles. Sometimes they choose you. She faced the screen again. Commander Vex was still there, his yellow eyes narrowing. You cannot be serious, human. One small ship against our entire fleet? You will be destroyed in minutes. Maybe, Lisa said. But you're going to learn why humans have survived on hostile worlds for thousands of years. We don't give up. We don't surrender. And we sure don't kneel to bullies. She nodded to Jake, who cut the communication. The alien commander's face disappeared from the screen. All hands, this is the commander, Lisa announced over the ship's intercom. We are about to face impossible odds. The aliens surrounding us want to make us slaves. They think we're weak because we're outnumbered. She paused, looking out at the enemy ships. They're wrong. We're explorers, scientists, and dreamers. But we're also human. That means we fight when we have to. That means we stand up to bullies, even when they're bigger than us. Amy had moved to the pilot's station. Commander, their weapons are powering up. They're going to attack. Lisa sat in her command chair. Ben will show them what humans are made of. Jake, target their lead ship. Amy, prepare for evasive action. When they fire, we move. The bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Jake spoke. Up, Commander. It's been an honor serving with you. The honor is mine, Lisa replied. All of you. Whatever happens next, remember that we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human who might encounter these aliens in the future. We're going to show them that humans are not easy prey. Outside the ship, the Zephyrian fleet moved closer. Their weapons glowed with deadly energy. The Defiance was tiny compared to them, like a minnow surrounded by sharks. But Lisa Kane was not afraid. She had made her choice. If this was where she would make her stand, she would make it count. Here they come, Jake said. Lisa gripped her chair and prepared for battle. The first attack came without warning. Bright beams of energy shot across space from the Zephyrian ships, hitting the Defiance like hammers. The small human vessel shook violently as its shields tried to absorb the massive power. Sparks flew from control panels and the lights flickered. Lisa held onto her command chair as the ship bucked under the assault. Amy, evasive maneuvers now. Amy's hands flew over the pilot controls. The Defiance suddenly dove downward, narrowly avoiding another blast that would have cut them in half. The ship spun and twisted through space, moving like a scared rabbit, running from wolves. Jake, return fire! Lisa shouted over the noise of alarms and crackling electronics. Jake pressed the firing controls. The Defiance's small weapons shot back at the alien fleet, but their energy beams looked like tiny sparks. Against the massive enemy ships, the shots hit the Zephyrian vessels, but barely scratched their thick armor. Our weapons aren't doing much damage, Jake called out, sweat running down his face. Another wave of alien fire struck the ship. This time the shields failed completely. Energy beams hit the hull directly, burning through metal and causing explosions inside the ship. The bridge filled with smoke. Hull breach on Deck 7. Dr. Crawford's voice came through the comm system. I'm sealing the emergency doors. Lisa. wiped blood from a cut on her forehead. The last impact had thrown her against her chair. "Amy, how are the engines?" "Still working, but barely. We've lost 40% power." Amy was fighting to keep the ship moving as more enemy fire came their way. Lisa watched the tactical display. The 12 Zephyrian ships were moving to surround them completely. Each alien vessel was firing steadily, trying to disable the human ship without destroying it. They still wanted prisoners. "They're trying to capture us alive," Lisa realized. "That gives us an advantage. They can't use their heaviest weapons." "Commander," Jake said, "even their light weapons are tearing us apart." Lisa studied the enemy formation. The Zephyrian ships were big and powerful, but they were also slow. They moved like giant trucks compared to the Defiance's sports car speed. "Amy, can you get us between those two big ships on the left?" Amy looked at the display. The gap between the two alien vessels was narrow and getting smaller as they moved to close it. "It's going to be tight, but I think so." "Do it. Jake, prepare a focused burst from all our forward weapons. Wait for my signal." The Defiance shot forward, accelerating toward the gap between the two massive Zephyrian ships. Enemy fire followed them, but Amy flew the ship like she was dancing, spinning and turning to avoid the deadly beams. The two alien ships realized what the humans were trying to do. They started moving closer together to block the gap. Lisa watched the distance shrinking. They had seconds before the opening disappeared. "Amy, more speed." "I'm giving her everything she's got," Amy replied, her knuckles white as she gripped the controls. The Defiance shot through the gap just as the two alien ships almost touched. For a moment, the human vessel was protected from most of the enemy fire by the massive alien hulls on either side. "Jake now." Jake fired every weapon the ship had. The concentrated energy beam struck one of the Zephyrian vessels at close range, hitting a weak spot where the armor was thinner. The alien ship's hull cracked and atmosphere began venting. "Into space, we hurt them," Jake shouted with excitement, but their victory was short-lived. The damaged alien ship was still fighting, and now all 12 Zephyrian vessels were angry. Energy beams came from every direction as the aliens tried to destroy the small human ship that had dared to wound them. "Emergency power to shields," Lisa ordered, but she knew it wouldn't be enough. The next attack was devastating. Multiple energy beams hit the Defiance from different angles. The ship's hull cracked in several places. Explosions rocked the vessel from bow to stern. Half the bridge controls went dark. Amy struggled to keep the ship flying as systems failed all around them. "We've lost main power, running on emergency systems only." Dr. Crawford's voice came through the comm, strained but determined. "Medical bay is sealed, but we have casualties. The entire engineering section is on fire." Lisa looked around her damaged bridge. Jake was still at his station, but blood ran down his arm from a piece of metal that had cut him. Amy was pale, but focused on flying the ship. Smoke filled the fill. Air and emergency lights cast strange shadows. "How many people do we have left?" Lisa asked quietly. 12 of the original 24 crew members are still alive," Crawford reported. "Most are injured but fighting." Lisa felt a cold anger building inside her. These aliens had come out of nowhere and attacked innocent explorers. They wanted to make slaves of her crew or kill them for sport. They thought humans were weak and easy prey. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Commander," Jake said, his voice tight with worry, "I'm reading more ships on the sensors. Zephyrian reinforcements are arriving." Lisa looked at the tactical display. 6 more alien vessels were dropping out of hyperspace, making the odds even worse. 18 ships against 1 damaged human vessel. "Amy, how long can we keep running?" Amy checked her instruments. "Maybe 20 minutes on emergency power. After that, we'll be dead in space. Lisa made her decision. She had been trained to explore and discover, but she had also been trained to protect her crew and defend humanity. Sometimes that meant making hard choices. Jake, I need you to do something dangerous. Can you overload our main reactor? Jake's eyes went wide. Commander, that would cause a massive explosion. It could destroy us along with anything nearby. I know, Lisa said quietly. But if we're going to die anyway, we might as well make it count. She stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. Through the damaged walls, she could see the alien ships moving closer. Their weapons were charging for another attack. That would finish the Defiance once and for all. All hands, this is the commander, Lisa announced over the ship's intercom. We are outnumbered and outgunned. Our ship is dying, but we are not finished yet. She paused, looking at her remaining crew members. These were brave people who had volunteered to explore the unknown. They deserved better than to die as alien slaves. We're going to show these Zephyrians something they won't forget. We're going to prove that humans don't surrender, even when facing impossible odds. We fight to the end. Outside, the alien fleet was preparing for their final assault. Commander Vex probably thought the battle was over. He was about to learn that wounded humans were the most dangerous humans of all. Jake, begin the overload sequence. Amy, set course for the center of their formation. The Defiance turned toward the heart of the enemy fleet, her engine struggling but still pushing forward. Lisa Kane was about to teach the galaxy a lesson about human courage. The Defiance limped through space toward the center of the Zephyrian fleet. Smoke poured from holes in the hull where enemy weapons had burned through. The ship's lights flickered on and off as the damaged power systems fought to keep working. But Lisa Kane stood firm on her bridge, watching the alien ships grow larger as they approached. Jake worked frantically at his station, his injured arm making every movement painful. Commander, the reactor overload is at 30%. Once it reaches 100%, we'll have maybe 2 minutes before the explosion. Lisa nodded. 2 minutes to get close enough to take as many aliens with them as possible. She looked at Amy, who was still flying the ship, despite a deep cut across her cheek. How close can you get us to their command ship? Lisa asked. Amy studied the display showing the enemy formation. The largest Zephyrian vessel sat in the center, protected by the others. It was 3 times bigger than the rest, covered in weapons and armor. That would be where Commander Vex was giving his orders. If I push the engines past their limits, I might get us within 500 meters, Amy said. But the ship will probably fall apart before we get there. Do it, Lisa ordered. If we're going to die, we're taking their leader with us. Dr. Crawford's voice came through the damaged comm system. Commander, I've got wounded crew members asking if they should abandon ship. The escape pods are still working. Lisa felt her heart break a little. She had led these people into this fight. They trusted her to bring them home safely. Now she was asking them to die with her. Tell anyone who wants to leave that they can go, Lisa said quietly. This is my choice, not theirs. She waited, listening to the sounds of her dying ship. Explosions echoed through the hull as more systems failed. The air was getting thin as life support struggled to work. Crawford's voice returned after a few minutes. Commander, no one is leaving. They all say they're staying with you to the end. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, feeling proud and sad at the same time. These were the best people she had ever known. If they had to die today, at least they would die together. Overload at 60%, Jake reported. His voice was getting weaker as he lost blood from his injuries. The Zephyrian ships were firing again, but not as heavily as before. They could see the human vessel was nearly destroyed. Commander Vex probably thought the battle was already won. He was just playing with them now, like a cat with a wounded mouse. The comm system crackled, and the alien commander's face appeared on the main screen. He looked pleased with himself, his yellow eyes glowing with satisfaction. Human Commander, your ship is finished. Surrender now and will make your deaths quick. Continue to resist, and I will make them last for days. Lisa stepped forward so Vex could see her clearly. Blood ran down her face from several cuts, and her uniform was torn and burned. But her green eyes still blazed with defiance. Commander, Vex, I want to tell you something about humans that you clearly don't understand. The alien leaned forward, curious despite himself. What could you possibly teach the mighty Zephyrian Empire? Lisa smiled, and this time it was a real smile, full of fierce pride. We don't just fight to win. We fight to make our deaths mean something. Every human who dies today will be remembered. Every sacrifice will inspire others to resist you. She paused, looking directly into the alien's yellow eyes. You wanted to make examples of us? Congratulations. You're about to create the biggest example in galactic history. Vex laughed his harsh, grinding laugh. You speak of inspiration while your ship falls apart around you. What example could you possibly make? This one, Lisa said, and nodded to Jake. Jake's hands moved over his controls one last time. Overload at 95%, Commander. Here we go. The Defiance's reactor began to scream as energy levels reached critical mass. Every light on the ship flashed bright white. The hull started to glow like a star as incredible power built up inside the small vessel. Commander Vex realized what was happening. His eyes went wide with shock and something that might have been fear. All ships, destroy the human vessel immediately. Energy beams from 18 Zephyrian ships struck the Defiance, but it was too late. The human ship was already committed to its final course. Amy held the controls steady as the ship shook apart around her. 200 meters to their command ship, Amy called out, her voice barely audible over the noise of the dying vessel. Lisa looked around her bridge one last time. Jake was slumped over his station, but still working. Amy's hands never left the flight controls. Through the smoke and sparks, she could see the faces of her crew. They were afraid, but they were also determined. They had chosen to die as heroes rather than live as slaves. 100 meters, Amy reported. Lisa activated the ship's intercom for the last time. All hands, this is Commander Lisa Kane. In 10 seconds, we're going to show the galaxy what happens when you try to enslave humanity. Remember us not as victims, but as warriors who chose to fight. She paused, watching the huge alien command ship fill their view screen. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve with you. Earth will remember. Humanity will remember. And these aliens will learn to fear our name. 50 meters, Amy said quietly. 10 seconds to core breach, Jake whispered. Lisa stood straight and proud on her broken bridge. Around her, the ship was falling apart, but her spirit was unbroken. She thought about her home on the frontier, about her father who had taught her to never give up, about all the humans across the galaxy who would hear this story someday. Commander Vex, she said into the comm, you wanted to know what makes humans special? We don't just survive. We make sure that everyone who tries to destroy us regrets it. The reactor reached critical mass. The Defiance became a small sun, burning bright against the darkness of space. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away, a brilliant flash that outshone the stars themselves. When the light faded, the center of the Zephyrian fleet was gone. Commander Vex's massive command ship had been vaporized instantly. 5 other alien vessels were destroyed completely, and 6 more were so badly damaged they would never fight again. Of the 18 ships that had attacked the Defiance, only 7 survived. They fled immediately, carrying word of what they had witnessed back to their empire. They spoke in whispers of the human commander who had chosen fire over surrender, death over slavery. They had learned Lisa Kane's lesson well. Humans were not easy prey. They were dangerous, especially when cornered. And they would never, ever give up without a fight. The explosion faded, but the legend was just beginning. 200 years had passed since the Battle of Kepler's Edge. The galaxy was a very different place now. Humans had grown from a small group of colonies into one of the most respected powers in known space. Every species had heard the story of Lisa Kane and her crew. Some told it as a warning. Others told it as inspiration. Admiral Jack Collins walked through the memorial hall aboard the flagship, U.S. Kane. The massive ship was named after the woman whose sacrifice had changed everything. Her picture hung on the wall alongside her crew. Members, all of them frozen in time but never forgotten. The hall was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Jack was an older man now, with gray hair and lines around his eyes from years of command. He had joined the Navy because of Lisa Kane's story. Like many humans of his generation, he wanted to prove that her sacrifice had meant something. A young officer approached him. Ensign Mary Adams was fresh from the academy, barely 22. Years old. She had grown up hearing stories about the legendary commander, but this was her first time seeing the memorial. "Admiral, the Zephyrian delegation is here," Mary said quietly. "They're requesting permission to come aboard." Jack nodded. The Zephyrians had been allies for over a century now. Their empire had learned hard lessons about making enemies of humanity. But the older aliens still remembered the terror that one human woman had brought to their fleet. The delegation entered the memorial hall slowly. Leading them was an ancient Zephyrian named Threxival. His scales were dull with age, and he moved carefully, but his yellow eyes were still sharp. Behind him came younger aliens, their faces full of curiosity and something that might have been respect. "Admiral Collins," Threxival said in perfect human language, "I am honored to stand in this sacred place. I was there that day when Commander Kane chose death over surrender." Jack studied the old alien carefully. "You were part of the fleet that attacked the Defiance." "I was," Threxival admitted without shame. "I was young then, serving on a destroyer in the Outer Ring. We thought humans were weak because you had not conquered other species as we had. We learned how wrong we were." He approached the display, showing Lisa Kane's final moments. The hologram showed her standing on her damaged bridge, defiant even. As her ship fell apart around her, "Your commander taught us that strength is not measured by the size of your fleet or the power of your weapons," Threxival continued. "True strength comes from here." He placed a clawed hand over his heart. "From the will to fight even when all hope is lost." One of the younger Zephyrians whispered something in their native language. Threxival nodded and turned to Jack. "My young colleague asks what we call Commander Kane in our language. The word is Zith-Kalar. It means the fire that burns forever." Jack smiled grimly. "That's fitting. Her example changed everything for us. Every human officer studies her final battle. We call them the Kane Protocols now." "Protocols?" Threxival asked. "Tactical doctrines based on her sacrifice," Jack explained. "We learned that sometimes victory doesn't come from surviving. Sometimes it comes from making your death count for something important." The old Zephyrian nodded slowly. "Yes, that explosion was seen from 3 star systems. The survivors who escaped spread the word throughout our empire. Within a year, every Zephyrian knew the story of the human commander who refused to surrender." He paused, looking at the other displays in the hall. "It changed us. Before that day, we thought conquest was simple. Find a weaker species, attack them, enslave the survivors. But Commander Kane showed us that some species will fight to the death rather than submit." Mary Adams stepped forward. her young face full of questions. "What happened to your empire after the battle?" Threxovel turned to her with something like sadness in his ancient eyes. "We learned to be more careful." Word spread to other species about what had happened. The crystalline collective, the machine intelligence, the hegemony worlds, they all heard about the human ship that destroyed half a Zephyrian fleet. "And?" Jack prompted. "They stopped being afraid of us," Threxovel said simply. "For centuries, species had surrendered when they saw our fleets because they thought resistance was hopeless. But Commander Kane proved that even a small force could hurt us badly if they were willing to die fighting." He gestured toward Kane's image. "Within 10 years of her death, 3 of our client species rebelled. They used her tactics, suicide, attacks, desperate last stands, turning their deaths into weapons. We lost more ships in those rebellions than we had in the previous century of conquest." Jack nodded. He had read the historical reports. The Zephyrian Empire had been forced to change their entire approach to expansion. Other species no longer feared them as much, and humans had gained a reputation as the galaxy's most dangerous warriors. "But that wasn't the end of it," Threxovel continued. "The story kept spreading. Every species told it to their children, some as a warning about the cost of war, others as proof that tyrants could be defeated." He moved to another display, showing human ships from different eras. "Your people changed too. Before Commander Kane, humans were seen as explorers and traders. After her sacrifice, you became known as fighters who never gave up." Mary looked confused. "But we didn't want to be known as fighters." "No, Threxovel. Greed, but you had to be. Every aggressive species in the galaxy wanted to test themselves against the humans who had bloodied the mighty Zephyrian Empire. You fought dozens of wars in the next 50 years. And we won them all," Jack said quietly. "Because you remembered her lesson," Threxovel replied. "That death is not defeat if it serves a purpose." Every human ship that faced impossible odds remembered Commander Kane. They fought like demons because they knew their sacrifice would inspire others. The old alien turned back to Kane's image. "Do you know what the other species call humans now? They call you the Eternal Fire, because like Commander Kane's sacrifice, human courage never burns out." Jack felt pride swell in his chest. Lisa Kane and her crew had been dead for 2 centuries, but their sacrifice still protected humanity. Every alien species knew that attacking humans meant facing enemies who would never surrender, never give up, never stop fighting. "There's something else," Threxovel said softly. "Something we've never told humans before." After the battle, Commander Vex's personal logs were recovered from the wreckage. In his final entry, he wrote about Commander Kane. "What did he say?" Mary asked. Threxovel was quiet for a long moment. He wrote that in all his years of conquest, he had never seen courage like hers. He said that if the Zephyrian Empire had soldiers with half her bravery, they could conquer the entire galaxy. Old Alien bowed deeply, a gesture of profound respect among his people. He was wrong, of course. If we had been like her, we would never have needed to conquer anyone. We would have been protectors instead of destroyers. As the Zephyrian delegation prepared to leave, Threxovel stopped one last time before Kane's image. "They feared her name long after the flames consumed her ship," he said quietly. "We still do. Not because she was our enemy, but because she showed us what we could have been." After the aliens left, Jack remained in the memorial hall with Mary. The young ensign was staring at Kane's picture with new understanding. "Admiral," she said, "do you think she knew that her death would change everything?" Jack considered the question. "I think she knew her crew was going to die. I think she decided to make that death mean something. Whether she knew it would inspire 2 centuries of human courage, probably not." He turned toward the viewport where stars wheeled in their eternal dance. But that's what makes her sacrifice so powerful. She didn't die for glory or fame. She died because it was the right thing to do. Somewhere in the darkness of space, other human ships sailed among the stars. When they faced danger, they remembered Lisa Kane. When they encountered impossible odds, they thought of the Defiance. And they found the courage to fight on, knowing that some things were worth dying for. Fire she had lit would never be extinguished.